friend. How you doing today? It's Tess from Yard Food, and I'm back with another session of Grow It, where I'm planting my vegetable garden and I'm inviting you to come along with me so that you can plant yours too. You know, in the weeks that have passed, we have hustled, right? We have planted a lot of crops, we've done a lot of thinking, and we've done a lot of planning. And I don't know about you, but boy, today I'm feeling a little tuckered. There's a lot of things going on in our worlds. There's a lot of work to be done in the garden, and goodness knows we've already done a lot of it. But the finish line is still out there a little ways, so I'm here to be your cheerleader and say, come on, the hustle needs to continue. So today, we're gonna talk about one of my favorites, one of them that is super worth the hustle, and that is my friend sweet corn. Now in my hand I've got some seeds of a particular variety of sweet corn that I love, and I collect its seeds every year so that I never run out of seeds. Something to think about. But today I need to put in a whole bunch of compost into my bed because, you know, this garden party we've been having, we're inviting guests one after the other, and this little fellow is a heavy eater. He's gonna hustle up to our hors d'oeuvre bar and he's gonna eat everything in sight. So I've gotta make sure that I put plenty of compost or well-rotted manure or some sort of organic fertilizer into my bed so that there's plenty of food for the corn. Now, another thing about corn, he's a big boy, he takes up a lot of room. And if you've been growing a vegetable garden or thinking about how you can maximize your space, sweet corn may have been sort of off the radar because it takes a lot of room to grow yummy sweet corn. Now, you might ask, why would I ever bother with sweet corn? I can go to the store and I can get plenty of ears of corn in the middle of summer. But here's the thing about homegrown sweet corn, and I'll tell you a little trick. There is nothing better than an ear of corn plucked right off of its stalk, taken into the kitchen, and eaten within a very short amount of time. And what happens with sweet corn when it's produced out there in the market is it takes several days between the time that corn is plucked and before it arrives on your dinner plate. And what happens with corn is that those sugars in that yummy ear of corn turn to starch over the course of time. And so when you are plucking your own right out of your garden, heading off to the kitchen and serving it up for dinner, the sweetness in that corn is going to be far more than anything that you can get anywhere else. Little trick, so worth it. But you might ask, is it worth the space that this corn patch is going to take up? And I would like to share my favorite little trick. I know I've got lots of them and I share it. I think I always call them my favorite trick, but each week they are because I use them year after year after year. And here's the thing with sweet corn. Because it takes up a lot of room, I want to make sure that I maximize every square inch of my garden. And so I'm going to create something that the native peoples that came long before me implemented all across this land. They called it the Three Sisters: corn, beans, and squash. And it turns out that these three vegetable crops grown together actually do far better than grown separately. There was a study done years ago, I believe it was Duke University, where they compared the Three Sisters method, corn, beans, and squash growing together in a patch, and they compared that with our modern industrialized monocrop system and discovered that this Three Sisters method was a far more effective use of space and provided far more nutrients and protein per acre than our modern industrialized system could even compete with. So from that point of view, the peoples that came before us, they knew what they were doing. They didn't have a market to go down to and pick up food when they ran out. They needed to produce their own, and they needed to do it in a very effective way. So let's take from them. Let's utilize the information and the knowledge that they possessed, and let's continue to use that and take that information and knowledge forward and share it with everybody that we know and care about. So in our vegetable garden, Let's use the Three Sisters method this season to maximize the use of this corn patch. And how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to, like I said, put a lot of well-rotted manure or compost or something very yummy for corn into my vegetable row. And then I'm going to follow the directions on my seed packet, and I'm going to plant my corn as I'm instructed to do. Then I'm going to wait until my corn starts to emerge. And when my corn is about this big, I'm going to plant at the base of each and every corn stalk 2 of my favorite dry beans. Now, you don't have to have a dry bean. You can use a nice, yummy green snap bean or something, but whatever you do, make sure that it's a pole variety, because our goal is to have the corn stalk be the pole and the bean wind itself up the corn stalk for the Three Sisters to work. We're also then going to add another crop to our Three Sisters patch at the same time that we're planting our beans, and that is squash. Your favorite kind of squash. It can be a summer squash, it can be a winter squash, it can be a pumpkin. It really doesn't matter. But the way this whole trio works together is that the corn stalk grows up, it provides support for the bean that winds around it, and the bean, when the bean is growing, fixes nitrogen out of the air and into the soil and provides even more food for our corn crop to grow. And that squash that we're also planting throughout that corn and bean bed, that's gonna grow. Remember, they get big leaves when they grow, and those big leaves and vines are going to shade the soil. And what that's going to do is 2 things. It's going to keep the weeds at bay, which is awfully nice when it comes to weeding season, but it's also going to keep moisture in the ground by shading that soil and not allowing it to dry out from the hot sun. So together, these 3 crops work tremendously well. It's just kind of like 3 good friends that you might know, and they all sort of dance around each other and know how each other feels and thinks and works. Well, vegetables can be the same, and the Three Sisters is a super smart way to do it. So that's kind of what I'm up to today. I love beans in my garden. They're a staple crop in my kitchen, so I'm going to make sure that I plant plenty. I love sweet corn, and so I don't want to miss the opportunity to plant it. So I'm going to make sure to put a lot of compost in my soil and chunk out a big little area for that crop. I also love winter squash, pumpkins, squash, any kind are my favorites. And so planting those among the beans and the corn are a super simple, super effective way to get a maximized return on my space. Okay, the Three Sisters. Easy to do. I know you can do it. If any of these crops are on your wish list, now is the time to plant. So let's dig deep, let's hustle hard, and let's plant our garden rows with the Three Sisters method and capitalize on this amazing knowledge that the peoples before us knew to do. Okay, friend, I hope that adds a productive thing to your list and not just one more burden. Thanks for sticking with me on this. The garden can be a lot of work. I know in the spring early, we've got all these magical ideas and energy to boot. And day by day, task by task, the garden can seem overwhelming. But don't forget, it's a place to come, it's a place to sit, it's a place to think, marvel, and just be super grateful for this amazing opportunity that has been presented to us. Time away from the regular world. Time to think, time to strategize, time to contemplate, and just plain old time to be grateful. I hope your week is going well. I hope that you're motivated. I hope that you're happy. I'm looking forward to another week with you next week. We'll see what it's time to plant. I'll give you a hint. We're getting close to tomatoes. And I'm gonna make some choices. Have a good week. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Okay, and don't forget, I've opened the list to the masterclass. More details on that in just a few short weeks. But The rest of the garden season will be coming, and our time together will be wrapping up once the garden is planted. And I want to give you an opportunity to come with me down the rest of the path and maximize our summer and maximize our harvest and learn what to do with that harvest and learn how to set ourselves up for fall and winter eating. All of that is yet to come, but that's included in the masterclass. So if you're at all interested and you want to hear more details, make sure that you get on the wait list. Up top in the tab section under Upskill, you can just put your name on the list, and I promise you, I'll update you when I've got more. Thanks so much.